Okay, so the next thing we can do, we can actually get on with spraying the green. So as we said, we've got the instrument panels all in, all the bits and pieces like that. So we're all quite straightforward. Just move that. We're all quite straightforward how it's going to go. Now the thing is, we've obviously got these front parts we've put Mr. Surfacer on, so we're going to need a good coat of paint. Because I'm doing internals and we're going to weather this up a little bit, bits and pieces like that, I'm going to spray it in neat. Okay, so what we're going to do, give this a good old shake, give it a good mix. Okay, unscrew the top. Okay, so this is neat paint straight from the colour cup. So it's going to be very, very thick, but it will grip. It will come along, spray on, and it will grip just straight away. So we just check our flow. Okay, and we're just going to go everywhere. So we're doing instrument panels. Make sure you get in from all the angles. Okay, so we want everything done. Okay, we just do the small part of the underside here. There's no point doing the rest. As I say, we're not going to see it, unfortunately. So I think we've basically got into all those areas. Okay, so now we can do the same with the cabin areas. Now what these do, these actually click in together, so it's quite straightforward. They just come in and click in. Got a little bar on the outside, holds that in, and we can do the same for this entire area. And you see how well that covers in one pass without too much problem. So we'll do the back area, even though we're not going to see it. Just the same, you can probably see it, it just covers in one. Quite a nice way of doing it. So we can do the same with the others. Have one little pass already. Come in with the second one now. Over there, all nice and green. And then we've obviously done, we'll give these a second one as well, inside these wheel wells. Just got a little one in there. Spray about in that one there, and anywhere else that you want to be sort of green. So if you are doing the entire of the bay, we'll do it all as a supposed, even though say we're not going to see it. Right the way around, and there we go, job done. So we're going to let those dry off just for a minute. Okay, so now what we're going to do is sort of detail this up and liven it up. So if we show you what we've done, we're bringing the cameras a little bit closer. So as you can see, we've painted it all green, and we've picked out the things like the radio boxes at the back in black, things like that. And we've done a simple bit of dry brushing around the cockpit to just liven it up. And we've installed all the little bits and pieces. We've also gone around and we've done all the actual work. So we've put in obviously more instruments, little bits. And you might notice we've got some wiring going on up here as well. Very, very simple to do. So the reason you do it, just sort of livens it up, brings it a little bit more to life, and you can do little things like here, like this one here. I'm working on a little hose rig. So if I show you how I do these, okay, what I have, I like this stuff. This is from Model Plus, and this is lead wire. Now it comes in all different sizes, really thick stuff like this, right the way through to very, very fine hair like this one up here. Okay, now actually this here is the 0.2 and it is just like hair. So what you have to do is be a little bit careful how you handle it, because it does tend to snap quite easily. So if we just bring a strand out, because it's lead or that type of material, it's very easy to bend, so it doesn't get sort of caught. Back in the bag, it doesn't sort of get caught and spring back, so when you bend it into position, it just sort of holds its shape. So you can get round some quite complex curves, and you can do stuff like we've done here. You might be able to see on the close-up, this one up here, and do all this little wiring all around the top here to give that effect of wiring coming from the back of the instruments, obviously electrical and hoses and hydraulic, things like that, just to show a little bit more detail. And what we've done back here, we've got some lines running forward, and as I say, the ones on these parts as well, we just got some hoses running down, and it just really livens it up. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. A little technique I'll show you for doing this hose, which we'll attach in a moment. Okay, very, very simple. Got here some wire. Now this is piano wire. Okay, now this piano wire is one of those things you can get it from radio controlled shops, things like that. Pretty straightforward. Okay, get a nice thin one, because obviously this will be the center thickness of the hose. All we do, we come along with our lead wire. Okay, and we just simply wind it all the way around, and every now and again you just bunch it up. Okay, and then carry on and try and keep it quite tight together a little bit, bunch it up. Okay, and just round, and every now and again let go of it, because obviously it's twisting as you go. Because this is quite soft, it will snap. Okay, so we're just going to work our way up here a little bit. Obviously you have to do quite a bit of this to make a hose, but it gives a nice effect, because obviously the other thing as well that's great with this, it will bend and stay in place. So if you were to use a piece of rubber, something like that, what will happen is it won't bend exactly brilliantly. But remember to just twist, to let it drop so it untwists, otherwise you'll end up with kinks in your hose. So you could use this for oxygen hoses, are really good, and things like that. But obviously any type of thick braided sort of hose. Alright, so if we just do one more, just going up here. Okay, that's nice. Then all we're going to do, just like this, we're just going to slide it off the end. Okay, and then obviously we just grab a pair of scissors here, cut the ends off, and there we have nicely done a hose. So if we just bring you in the big cam here, you can see this very nicely done. And then the great thing with this, you can just sort of bend it to make any shape you like, and you can paint it up and things like that, and you'll be absolutely fine with it. So quick, easy way to make a little hose. So then you can come along and you can go, right, okay, well obviously crew have to have oxygen lines and things like that. You can pull it apart just a little bit, whichever you're going to do, and then the same thing, you can just come along, super glue, bit of CA glue, we can get it come out, get low. Okay, this is a medium one that's gone a little bit thicker. Now because it's a little bit thicker, it takes a little bit longer to dry, which is ideal. Okay, so we're just going to come along here, we'll just put a little drop on one end. Okay, and then we'll just come in, pop our hose into it on one end. Just a little bit more glue. Tweezers are always handy when you're doing these types of things, because it just makes it easier to handle. So we'll just fix that there. Happy with it there. Obviously just for speed, I'll just give it a bit of kicker. Happy how that is, and then what you can do, you can get just a little bit more, making a bit of a mess here. I'm going to put a little bit up here. Okay, and you can work your new hose by pulling it out and expanding it, and just pull it around to exactly where you want it, and it just livens it all up. And then this one, we can run him up here, we can say, right, it's going to run up that way. Okay, and run him in any direction you actually like. So it's just a quick, easy way. Exactly the same with a lead wire. You can come along, and then obviously using different widths and things like that, you can come along like we've done just up here and run some hydraulic hoses, or it looks like, or instrument ones for these instruments, all the way around exactly how you'd like them, until you end up with them, as I say, like here. Back of instrument panels, all I do is actually put a little blob of super glue on the back, feed the wire into it, a squirt of kicker, job done. Very, very simple, very, very straightforward. So that's those bits done now. So what we want to do now is sort of liven up that interior. Now what we're going to do with that, and just give it that sort of nice grimy look, just grab a hose. We're just going to give it a little wash around in here, and a little bit of dry brushing just to sort of bring it to life and get it to sort of stand out just a little bit. So we're just going to take our airbrush, just put a little bit of airbrush cleaner in it because it's been stood up for a day. just get rid of the cleaner, just in like that. Okay, for this very simple technique, as I say, all I'm going to do, just going to take some flat black. I've got a little bit here, okay, and we're only going to need a tiny amount. This is going to be sort of 90% thinners, so we just take some thinners in the colour cup. We're not going to need much. Okay, we'll use a oldish brush. We've got one around here, or a brush even. Okay, a little bit of black paint. Okay, and then all we're going to do is just come into the colour cup, good old mix with the brush. So all we're making is dirty, sort of, you'll be able to see it there, dirty sort of thinners, if you like, for want of a better word. Okay, now you could brush this on. Trouble if you brush it on, because it's got thinners in it, you tend to drag the paint. Also, the other thing as well, by putting it on with an airbrush, you get a much more even coat to this. So we just check our flows are coming out. Okay, and then all we're going to do is quite liberally spray it in absolutely everywhere, and hopefully what it'll do, you might be able to see it going on already. Bringing the top cam in a little bit, you can see there on the cushions and things like that, it's giving that nice grimy effect. So we just shoot it down in from all the angles, and then we're just going to let it off and stand out the way. Same with the main area. So we've used all of that, a bit more thinners in the cup. Now if you do find it's not really dirty, don't go in with a thicker paint, just give it a couple more coats and build up your coats, and that's a lot easier. A bit too thin. It's a lot easier to do it that way than it is to come along and put a thick coat down, because as soon as you put a too thick a coat on, you're not using it as a wash then to sort of highlight areas, you're actually going to end up painting it, and we don't want that at all. So what we'll do, we just go another one in here. Okay. So we'll let that stand. Don't try and dry it with an airbrush, because when you try and dry it with an airbrush, what tends to happen is you end up with it sort of spraying out the way, and that's something you don't want, because obviously it'll push it off to unnatural areas. You just need it to naturally sit. So if we show you here on the close-up, we just bring it out a little bit, you can probably see the type of thing effect we're getting here. Obviously one with the other, it's nicely stained in, and obviously the other side isn't. So we're going to do the same on this side, and we're going to do the same with the wheel wells. Let them sit, just the same ones here, just to liven them up a bit, it won't take much. And what I say, just grab all those little hoses, exactly the same. There we go. Leave them to dry for sort of half an hour. Just give the airbrush a quick clean out. Let them all dry off for half an hour. Don't come back in there too soon and try and handle them, as I say, because that thinners will soften all that paintwork that you've done inside there and everything else. So we just clean out the airbrush. Okay, so now we can actually bring it all together. So actually you've got here, installed it in, slid it through, obviously the holes you'll see here. Now the thing is, you need to make sure it's right the way across. If it's not totally in and fitted in correctly, it's going to bulge out and you're not going to get the seams in. Also, make sure this rear bulkhead back here is in there properly, because if it's slightly out of alignment, next thing you know, you've got all types of trouble, as it won't sit in. And then same goes for the little bulkhead that runs just down here, and this one down here. You need that to be forward, and so it all clicks in. Otherwise, as I said, it just causes so much trouble because it won't all go in. So we put that one in there. Okay, coming along with our other side, so we slide that one in as well, and then when you push together, you should find it just sits nicely together with no real problems at all. If you've got a problem where you've got a big bulge and it just won't go together, it's pushing apart massively, you know, there's obviously something's wrong. One of the bulkheads is slightly wrong, or there's something jamming this down here. It's well worth taking the time to find out exactly what's going wrong and try and do it properly. So that one's on, so you could use the obligatory pegs or whatever way you want to seal up the body. I'm going to use a couple of pegs along this one, and I'm going to use a band from around the middle. So I just grab a rubber band. So this really trying to find one. Always check the floor. Okay, so we're going to pop a band around this centre section. If we take those off, user. Mind these locating ones down here. These are actually going to hold the bomb bay doors open. If you're going to, like me, and have them all closed up, you won't have to worry about it. But you don't want to snap them off, because otherwise it's a bit of a pain if you want to get it all on there. So that's those on. Obviously we've installed the rear camera that goes up the back here. Make sure that one's in already as well. So we just flick these over the top of these guys. Just like that. That is quite tight. Okay, what we're looking for is a nice seam, nice join, as I said. So we just on the back, one of these on here. We'll pop one on the tail. Okay, and then what we're going to do is sort of slightly manipulate it so it's all together. So just give it a little bit of a push up and down as is required to get it to sort of all be man. If we just bring that one in. So what we're trying to do is just to get them to sort of sit nicely, and it'll just save a little bit of sanding. Extra thin, plenty of it. Just let it run in and do its work. Now, if you have forgotten to put in, which I should have mentioned just before we started, the tail wheel, there's like a mudguard type system at the back inside it up here. See on the close-up. You could get it in afterwards. I have done one of these before and I forgot to put it in, and I managed to get it in afterwards, which was quite handy. Okay, so we're just going to put a little drop just up inside the bomb bay, so the capillary reaction runs around the top and gives us that nice sort of seal in there. So that's that side done. Flip it over, avoiding the area where the rubber band is. Going to work it down the spine, in between the pegs there. As I said, be generous with it, because there's nothing worse than having it whether you haven't got enough. Okay, so I'm just going to run around everywhere now and get these together, then we can seal it all up, hold it all together, and then we can get things like the wings on and various bits and pieces like that. Okay, so this has been drying now for the last couple of hours, and we're quite happy how it's gone. So what we've done, a minute ago we went along a bit more extra thin right the way on to make sure those seals are all nicely in and done. So you've got your choice now. You can either come along and do these seams, or you can pop the wings on. So if we're going to pop the wings on, and we can sort of just sand around as we need it. Now sometimes it's a bit of a hard bit to get because it locks in. What it actually is this one down here, this little pin that's going to hold the wing on, sometimes just gets a little bit stuck. So what I tend to do, just pop a pair of tweezers just in there and just lift it over just like that. Okay, and it should come in and really lock in quite nice. Then we've got the hole under here, and then what happens is, you've got here 4 and 5 on sprue B. It says can't find his nice scissors, so I have to use his very posh ones. Okay, so we're just gonna snip them. Okay, and what happens is we just give these a tiny little clean up. Don't sand too much off of this because this is actually a very nice fit. What happens is it's going to go through, and obviously it'll pin this other one on the other side into place. So you should find it will go in and push down, and it will lock that wing in. Okay, and obviously you've got a little mark there, but once it's glued in, it really does lock in very, very nicely. Now I do believe this one is an easier fit. Okay, so we'll just clean off this other side. Okay, just like so. And you have to make sure these are really pushed in tight to get them to all line up. Okay, so once that's in, that goes in, pushes down, positive on the wing. Got a little tiny seam running down the back here, but we're going to take care of that just the same. plenty of extra thin, load up your brush, let the capillary action flow and pull along and take care of that seam. Remember not to do this rear one down the back here, because obviously that is the flap at the rear, so you don't want to worry too much about that. But what we do want to do is obviously take care of this joint. Now naturally in real life there is a line down here, so you don't want to make it totally a seamless joint, because it should have one. Okay, but plenty of glue is the secret. And if you are using an extra thin like this, you'll get a nice welded seam line right the way across. So we'll do the same on the other side. Okay, then we're going to let that dry just for a little bit to come off. Now if you wanted to, you could put your tail planes on. Obviously they're just sandwiched together, they're going to go on. You can put them on now if you wanted to, or depending on your colour schemes, perhaps you're going to want to do those afterwards. It's totally up to you, your choice. The other thing we've got on the go just down here is we've got all these bits for the undercarriage. So what I tend to do is down here we've got this little cross section. All I do is put it in first, okay? Then what you can do is just temporary, is just pop it together. Okay, now for this you could use a tiny little bit of super glue, or as I'm going to do, it just sort of holds itself. Okay, come along with the clamps, and I'm going to spray this silver because it's just the colour it actually is. But by popping it together, it's easier, because then we can come along with the wheel, because the wheels obviously are going to be black and they're just going to go straight on, and there's a little hub that's going to fit on those as well, and they can be sprayed silver. So I'll show you about painting the wheels separately in a moment, but it just makes this a lot easier. So you can do this obviously to the actual call out for it is XF16, which is an aluminium type colour, to spray this one, or you could use perhaps one of the Citadels or even Alclads if you wanted to. So we'll paint that silver, that one's done. Same with the tail wheel, and at the same time you might as well do the mud guards, which are going to go on the back of the wheel as well, and have those all done, all out of the way. Then we've got here one of these drums, nicely cleaned up, the sprue peg marks on the end. We can paint them up separately as it's called out, which is going to be is a colour mix, and then with silver strappings on it as well, and we can get those installed but put away until later on, just to give us something to do as that's drying. Okay, so now that's all dry, what we need to do is obviously take care of seam lines. So I've done a few other places to show you roughly how I sort of work my way through. So taking your sanding files, grab mine. What I tend to do, I don't start off with anything really coarse to start with. I tend to start off with something sort of like a medium sort of file. So these are like sort of the Pro Modelers files that we do, which are the micro mesh ones. So all we're going to do is run across, and immediately you can probably see you get a line, and obviously this is the difference in the height. So what we want to do is go right over that until all of that just dusts in to be the same colour, so it's quite dull. So you might be able to see here on this close-up one, we've got down here nice and dull, okay, and as we move up you can see the line, so we want it all to be like this area back here. Now this is totally dried off, and it's important it has, because if it's slightly damp or something like that, then what happens is obviously it will sink back and everything else. So this one's been drying for a few days now, so all we're going to do is keep rubbing and rubbing and rubbing all the way along. Okay, until we're all basically disappeared. Now you might get little areas just like this here, little grey spot just down here you might have a at, and that's where the ejector pin joined the actual area itself. So there we go, we're just working our way through. Then up to this one up here, same thing again. You'll see where that ejector pin is, mark up at the top here. I've got to be quite firm with that one, but I just got my thumb on top just to keep pressure on it. And obviously we're making lots of dust which is going to go inside here, so we're going to have to blow them out, same with round the front and everything else like that. So what we do, once we've gone along, we're just going to turn it over and lightly, we're not digging down hard, we're going quite light, and all we're going to do is give it a run round everywhere. What this is going to do is take out any real heavy duty scratches on it. So we just take out this one up here. Okay, have a quick feel. Now if it's really rough, you can come along with a rougher sort of sanding sponge, okay? and give it a go over, and this will cut through a lot faster, as you can probably see, just like that. It doesn't take long at all to cut through, but the trouble is it does make more scratching, which we're going to have to polish out. So it's one of those things, we're just going to work our way through all the grits. Okay, so we're going to back with this guy. That's going to take out all the heavy scratching. Flip over to the finer side. Okay, just like so. Okay, then we've got our other one here. So we've got two grades on here. We've got pink first. And that'll take care of more scratches. Okay, I'll go 90 degrees to it. And as you'll notice, it'll get more and more shiny as we go along. As we make our way through here. Okay, then we're going to work our way over to the white one. Okay, that's about as far as we go. Okay, then we're taking one of these guys now. This is one of my polisher ones. Okay, and we're just on the green side, using it dry. Right, way down the back. Okay, up to the front. Blowing off. Okay, then we're just going to come in with the white side now, and this will polish it up better than it was before. Okay, that gets rid of all the scratches, absolutely everything. And there we go, all nice and shiny. Now you've still got a line down there, don't get me wrong, but what that actually does, it's all perfectly smooth. So when you come over here on the other side, and we just move this bit of camera out just a little bit, you can probably see it's extremely shiny on both cameras, and that's because this has polished it up completely, taking care of that. Now at the same time, what we've done, we've basically popped a little bit of Mr. Surfacer. So we've got the Mr. Surfacer here. This is 1200 for a change, just in this area now. It's probably still a little bit wet, so we're going to let it totally dry off. But what that's done is seal up any little lumps and perhaps little divots you get where the glue has melted a little bit too much of the plastic and worn its way in. So that takes care of that. But what we'll do, we will come along eventually just on the side, and we'll just blend them in, but this isn't totally dry yet, but once it is, we will do. We've done the same on the wingtips as well, because we had the join there, so there again. So what we're going to have to do is just tidy up a little bit of these areas here. So we're just going to take our pea cutter, which is nice and easy because these are nice straight lines. Okay, we're just going to literally hold it roughly in place, bring it along, okay, and just lightly drag, and it'll clean out some of these little marks just like that, and it'll tidy them up. Sometimes you need the guide, other times you can just follow some of the panel lines just to clean those up. And as I say, we've got these little ones just running down here as well, just to clean them up and make them a lot nicer. Then you obviously you can go around to other ones where perhaps you've totally taken them out and things. So we've got this one down here, which is just filled up with filler dust and the like. Just clean them out very simply, and obviously it will just make them a little bit deeper. Okay. And there we go, same with these down here, just to keep them all clean and nice and tidy. And that will complete our major framework and bodywork that's needed on this one. Obviously I've still got to tidy up around this front area, working on the nose, take care of those themes, and we're all happy. Making sure we've done all the leading edge of the wings, they're all nicely done. But what I'll do, I'll run around with the white side of this right the way over upstairs to polish it all up so it's got a nice keyed in for doing the bottom. On the underside, so obviously we've taken care of these engine areas, nauticals, just the same thing, just working around those at the moment. Obviously quite important to polish up this area under here as well, because that's a bit of a thing, but as you can see, it does give a nice effect all over. So we're really looking like a Mosquito now.